Hello, everyone, and good afternoon. Thank you so much for coming to our next session. Today, we're going to learn a little bit more about law and legal studies here at Carleton University. Before I dive in, I just want to mention very quickly that if you have any questions at all, we are happy to answer them. We encourage you to ask your questions. I'll just ask that if you're comfortable asking questions, please use the Q&A feature of the AirMeet platform. It's a little bit easier for us to keep track of on the backside of things. But I'll be happy to answer your questions, as will our two guests. And with that, I will pass things along to Sean and Bettina. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Millie. We appreciate it. Welcome, everyone. We're so glad you could join us today. This is the Department of Law and Legal Studies presentation. My name is Sean Richmond, and I'm lucky to have our chair as well with us, Bettina, who's going to introduce herself in a minute. Thank you so much for making time to hear more about our program, our department, our courses, and our faculty. We're really excited that you're thinking of joining us, and we're here to highlight some of what we think are our strengths and what makes us so special to study with. We know you've got options. We know you might have questions. So we're going to also save some time for some Q&A at the end, and you can send your questions, as was noted, through the Q&A feature. We're thrilled that you're thinking of joining our department. We know it's a big decision. As might have been noted in prior talks as well, Carleton in our department is planning on being in person mostly, back to normal-ish, whatever that means, in September. So after 2 years of the pandemic and adjusting, everyone's looking forward to a more normal year next fall. So I'm going to focus on the big picture, and Bettina, our chair, is also going to jump in with some of her thoughts as well. But just remember, of course, that there's lots of more information on our Department of Law and Legal Studies website as well. And I'm going to put my email up there in a minute as well. You can email us if you've got questions. I'll just put that up right now. Give me 1 second. So that's me. I'm the undergraduate supervisor. We've also got an amazing undergrad administrator named Sarah Cleary, who's always there to help with student questions as well. So you can email me or Sarah after the presentation as well if there's anything we weren't able to address. Before we get into some of the highlights of our program, though, let me please welcome and introduce you to Professor Bettina Appel-Kuzmarov. She is our amazing chair and leader, and she's very passionate about law and legal studies, and I'm going to let her introduce herself. Welcome, Bettina.
Thank you, Sean, and thanks for the kind introduction. Welcome, everyone. We are so excited that you're interested in the Department of Law and Legal Studies, and I want to tell you a little bit about why. You know, one of the interesting things about law, and you may not think about it this way, is that it really is everywhere. We structure our society through law. And as a result, everyone can benefit from learning about the law in different ways. So I'm going to ask you just to put in the chat now if you, for example, bought a coffee in the last 3 weeks. Let me know if you did. I see some yups. I see definitely, yeah, yes. Did you know that that's actually a contractual arrangement of purchase and sale? That's law in action. And there are consumer law rules about exactly how your product has to be presented. There are rules on advertising about what can be advertised and how. There are rules on competitive pricing and competition that deal with how and why there might be a Starbucks on every corner or not. So these are all things that law actually helps us structure in our day-to-day lives. So that coffee is actually more than just a coffee. And that's one of the things that we focus on in the department, is this idea that law is everywhere and it affects everyone, and it affects us all in different ways. And so one of the things that we're committed to as what's called a multidisciplinary department is looking at law from a whole variety of different perspectives. And that means that some of us, Sean and I would count ourselves in this camp, are lawyers by training. We have been to law school, but many of our colleagues also bring different and diverse skill sets to their teaching. Some are anthropologists, some are criminologists, some are historians, and some are both or more than one. So that's just a sampling of the kinds of diverse approaches to law that you will get. We also look at law from many angles. And one of the main things that we tend to focus on in our department are concepts. And one of the things that I think unites us as a department is a commitment to ideas of social justice. Law as part of this bigger question of how we actually create a more just and fulfilling society. So for example, some of the big projects that people have going on in our department are things like environment and water rights through an Indigenous lens, or trans legal rights. And we're going to talk about some of these issues as we go through the presentation today. So the two things that I'm going to ask you to keep in mind about our department are, one, that law is everywhere, and it's important to understand it to get a good understanding of our society. And two, that there are multiple angles that you can look at law from. And in the department, we have a wide representation. I should add that also Sean himself is also a political scientist, so by training. So there you go. So with that in mind, I think I'll turn it back over to you, Sean, for some of the intro, and we'll go back and forth from there.
All right, sounds good. Thank you, Bettina. We know you're getting a lot of information, and it can be hard to remember everything. That's okay. The human brain can only absorb so much. When this is over, if you only remember a few key points, I'm going to mention them now and repeat them. At the end of the day, when you're thinking about why study with us, why complete a degree, an undergrad degree in law and legal studies, there are a number of highlights that we're proud of. The first is that we are the oldest and largest program in legal studies, with the largest faculty of its kind in Canada. What does that mean for you as students? That means, for instance, more course options. I think around 70 at our latest count. And so that's going to give you a range of interesting courses and profs to study with, depending on your interests and your career goals. That history that we have also brings with it an established reputation among employers for our degree, for instance, and if you're thinking about future grad studies or law school studies. And another highlight that Bettina flagged, which is really important, is that we are a truly interdisciplinary program. You're going to study traditional sources of law, like legislation and court cases, but you're also going to critically analyze those sources in their social and political and historical context. Why is the law the way it is? Whose interest does it serve? How could it be different? How could it be reformed, for instance? And we're going to look at those kinds of questions from a local and also a global context, because law bears on our domestic politics, but it also bears on international issues. As many of you might know, there's a war in Ukraine, for instance. There's a climate emergency. So many of those global issues have national resonance, and we have courses to help empower you to understand them. Another highlight that students often are excited about are our internships, our co-op placements, and exchange opportunities as well. And that's going to give you real world experience, and it's also going to give you connections in terms of your peers, but also professional connections long term as well. And so again, with this theme of post-pandemic, we're all excited that more of those kinds of opportunities are going to be possible in a more normal environment. Another highlight that matters to a student perspective is you'd be studying in a supportive learning environment with profs and staff that are passionate about what they do and we are committed to student success. And we are proud that many of our students report that back to us, that they felt supported in their studies. And finally, I'd flag for you that you'd be getting a degree that's ultimately going to give you transferable skills and also knowledge that's going to help you pursue exciting careers afterwards or postgraduate study. And I'll talk a bit more about those opportunities in a minute. But if I could summarize, again, in terms of highlights, oldest and largest program of its kind in the country, an established reputation, large course selection, an interdisciplinary approach, exciting internship and co-op opportunities, a positive and supportive learning environment, and ultimately a foundation that's going to set you up well for an exciting career or further studies afterwards. So those are some of our highlights that we're proud of, and we're going to touch back on them throughout the presentation. I mentioned at the end on those highlights that we aim to prepare students, for exciting careers afterwards. And we've noted over the years that sometimes that's the question parents ask most. And we want to emphasize, what can you do with your degree in law and legal studies? There's a range of exciting opportunities. Many of our graduates have exciting careers with government departments, for instance. And, some of you will know that Ottawa is the home of many federal government jobs, and our students are well placed for careers in that regard. We've had students pursue careers in educational institutions, media and information tech companies, including Shopify, NGOs as well, and civil society organizations, financial and insurance industries, healthcare, social support, among others as well. And we help students think about and connect with people in a career sense by running alumni networking events. We run popular events where we connect students with former alumni. We're really excited that people want to come back and support a new generation of students to find their feet and think about what kind of careers they're going to pursue. And so we're proud of those events that we run to help students make those connections, linking up their studies with their careers afterwards. So those are a bit about the highlights and a bit about career paths. Bettina, was there anything glaring that you could think of or that I've forgotten thus far?
No, but I think I would also point out how you can see from all of these job options here that our degree is a springboard to really find your interests. One of the things about law being everywhere is that I've had students approach me for questions about, for example, things like what do they do because they are, semi-pro athletes, and then how do they use law in those settings? Really, these are the highlights of the top career paths, but because law is everywhere, it will parlay into the interests you already have as well.
Thanks. That's great. So what do we have to offer? If you do choose to study with us, what are our programs? We've got 3 areas of concentration. You don't have to pick a concentration. You can also just take a range of courses in law and legal studies, but many of our students do choose to. Business law is our most popular concentration, but we also have law, policy, and government, and then transnational law and human rights. As I mentioned earlier, there's also co-op programs as an option within 2 of our concentrations. So we've got students working for local law firms, for instance, businesses, in research capacities with federal police, for instance, and also local NGOs as well. And they report back that they find those experiences very, very rewarding. We've also got exchanges, as I mentioned earlier, at over 175 partner institutions in over 35 countries around the globe. Sarah always reminds me to reassure students that whatever program you do start with, know that there's flexibility if you do want to change your program. You can adjust as you pursue your studies. So she always asks me to reassure students that you're not stuck if you pick one path. You can change. Another question that students are often wondering when they're getting ready to start their first year, and they're wondering when they're picking which programs to pursue at university, is what will their first year look like? And with our program, we're very proud that many of our senior faculty members, including Professor Jane Dixon, who have got a slide up there for you, teach our first year introduction courses. This brings a wealth of scholarly and practical experience to bear in the teaching of our introductory law and legal studies courses, and we're really proud of our first year faculty in that regard, and we benefit from that experience and expertise. Students then build on the foundations of their first year into second year courses, third year, fourth year. The skills and the knowledge are designed to build on your prior studies. And again, if there's a big picture message I'd like you to take away in terms of the range of those courses over your 4 years, it's, as Bettina was noting earlier, law is everywhere. And similarly, if you think of almost any issue in Canada, any challenge around the globe, we've got a course for that. Once you have that foundations in our first year, there's a range of exciting and diverse courses at the second, third, and fourth year level. And so you name it, we've got a course for that. As I mentioned earlier, whether it's about environment and climate change, prison reform, social justice issues, anti-racism, internationally. Last fall, for instance, the U.S. withdrew from Afghanistan. Right now, as many of you know, there's a war in Ukraine, for instance. We've got international law courses that will help you understand those challenges as well. In addition to Professor Dixon, Professor Vincent Kazmierski, our former chair, is another exciting faculty member who helps teach our first year courses, and he's won a number of teaching awards for his commitment to student learning and engaging teaching as well. So he's another one of our many faculty members whom we're proud of. So again, the theme I wanted you to take away when thinking about the range of courses we offer in law and legal studies is we've got a course for that. I mentioned, climate change is one example. For instance, we've got second year courses in social justice and human rights, persons and property, the criminal justice system, which is one course I teach. And also law, state, and citizen, which helps students understand some of the foundations about constitutional law, federalism, the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. As some of you might know, we had convoy protests in the early winter, and some of the arguments made around those events involved arguments about what our constitutional rights were, what the limits of them were. And so we have courses that are going to help you understand the legal basics around those kinds of debates, but also the social, the historical, and the cultural context behind those debates as well. In addition to the courses I just mentioned as well, I noted that the business law is our most popular concentration. And so, for instance, within the business area, we've got third year courses on contracts, intellectual property, international trade regulation, employment law, law in an information society, regulation of corporate crime, and international economic law as well at the fourth year level. And again, this is just meant to give you a taste, about the range of courses. For a full list, our website is available. As I mentioned at the beginning, because of our size, we offer over 70 courses, and so there's a wide range of potentially interesting ones. We're highlighting a smaller sample for you today, just to give you a taste. At the international level, that's something that resonates with my research and teaching background in international law. We've got courses on international law of armed conflict, immigration and refugee law, law of environmental quality, for instance. We've got courses on human rights, addressing, for instance, regulating freedom of expression, law on Aboriginal peoples, international human rights, and then also law, disability, and society. And Professor Kazmierski, who was noted earlier on one of the slides, is an expert in that area as well. Bettina, was there any other thoughts you had about the range of courses as students would move from the first year to the second, third, and fourth?
No, but what I think I would just note with that is that with that comes a lot of flexibility, and that what that means is you have program requirements that you will have to meet at each year level. But because we offer such a range of options, there are certain required courses, but there's also a range of courses that you can also take that meet your own interests. And I would say, when making your decisions, don't underestimate the value of choice in that. So because we're a large department, you do have a wider range of choices.
True. Thank you, Bettina. So, we're excited about our courses. We know that students who take them, are excited about the profs, motivating, caring TAs as well, the staff. But we also know from a student perspective, your peers, the people you're going to meet, the friends you're going to make, that's a core part of an undergraduate experience, of undergraduate studies. And so we also want to highlight that another reason our program is exciting is its engaging and collegial student experience. As I mentioned earlier, we have an amazing range of alumni. I'm always impressed and heartened by their enthusiasm and commitment to the next generation of students, and that enthusiasm is built from the friendships that they've made, the connections that they've built with other peers. A great example of that student experience is the Carleton Law and Legal Studies Society. They host social events. They host info sessions on law school. They also are involved in mooting tournaments like the Capital Cup mooting tournament. And that's an opportunity to compete in courthouses here in Ottawa in front of real live lawyers and judges. And I know that's always a highlight of the year, and students report it to be a tremendously rewarding and challenging experience. But our Carleton Law and Legal Studies Society is a great example of engaged students who are putting the skills and knowledge they're learning in the courses to practice with things like the mooting tournaments. So alongside that positive student experience, another factor we know that students are going to care about are the profs, the faculty that are going to teach you. And a message I want you to come away with from today is we have caring and motivated faculty members who have both scholarly expertise, but also many of our faculty members and instructors have applied experience as well. And so when you're reading about a topic in the textbook, our instructors are often able to bring in real world stories about litigating an issue, for instance, or seeking to reform an area of law. And an exciting example of someone who bridges both those areas of scholarship and practicing lawyer is Professor Danica Littlechild. She has extensive experience practicing law and serving Indigenous people across Canada and also internationally. And this year she's teaching a special topics course titled Indigenous Relations, Ethics, and the Law. We're really excited to have Professor Littlechild with us, and she's one of many examples. I'm gonna highlight a few for you about our exciting faculty and the kinds of courses they teach. So in addition to Professor Littlechild, we also have Professor Omnikhan. Her research focuses on sexuality and gender, and she teaches a fourth-year course in that area. We also have Professor Cheryl Hamilton. Bettina mentioned, and I emphasized that we're proud of our interdisciplinary approach to law and legal studies, and Professor Hamilton is a great example of that. She teaches both in the School of Journalism and Communications, but also in our department in Law and Legal Studies. And her research examines legal personhood, media, and law, gender, and technology. And I think this year she's teaching a third-year intellectual property course and also one on freedom of expression. And just like the range of our courses, I can't fully convey all of them here. Same thing with our amazing faculty. There's too many to do justice to all of them. I'll just flag a few of them today. They're all, though, listed on our faculty website as well. We've got a range of amazing people who you will have the chance to learn from. Excuse me, Professor Anya Zubieska researches labor law and the regulation of work, for instance. Professor Mohammed Hassan's research looks at toxic colonialism and the state's responsibility to regulate corporations. Professor Megan Gaucher is another one of our amazing faculty members, and her research looks at the intersections between citizenship and family. And Professor William Hebert's work is in critical criminology, prison studies, and gender and sexuality studies as well. I don't want to fire hose you with the full range of our faculty, but the point again is to give you a taste of their exciting and diverse backgrounds. Bettina mentioned, the range of people's training, for instance, in different disciplines. Those faculty I mentioned have that range. They've been trained in different fields, and that gives, I think, our department a truly interdisciplinary approach to addressing questions of law and legal studies and how we teach our undergrad courses. Bettina, was there any other thoughts you might have had about our amazing faculty of the courses they teach?
No, other to reiterate the fact that they are in general amazing. You can see the diversity of approaches and backgrounds that people bring to it. And one of the things that I would say about that is that it really allows you to see law from all these different angles, which is really wonderful, and will contribute no matter what you decide to do as with your degree and moving forward to your ability to understand the law really well. So.
Perfect. So we want to make sure we save time if you do have questions. As I said at the beginning, we're so excited that you're thinking of joining us. We are here if you do have further queries, or if you want to email us, that's okay as well. Our faculty and staff will be here for you as registration opens if you do decide to study with us, as the term gets started, and throughout your 3 or 4 years with us. We're here to support you. So with that, we'd love to open it up if people do have any questions. We find sometimes that's the most valuable to students, and especially if you do have a query. We've noticed over the years that one of your peers might be wondering the exact same thing. So are there any, I'm just going to check our feed about potential questions.
So Sean, there are 2 in the Q&A.
Pardon me?
If you go to the Q&A, there are 2.
All right.
It's next to the chat. I'm happy to start off with both of them, actually.
Okay, great.
So the question was from Rohan. It was, what are the class sizes in the first and following years?
Oh, yeah.
So in first year, as I mentioned in the full chat, you're required to take Laws 1001 and Laws 1002. Those are courses that are 0.5 credits, which means that they're 1 semester courses. So you take each one in each semester. It'll be one of your 5 credits that you take in first year. And those class sizes are usually ranging between 180 and 300 is usually where we place them. But you have small group tutorials attached to them, which are groups of 30, where you get to come together and deal with materials in depth. We also offer something that is really unique across Canada, and I would actually emphasize that, which is something called the first year seminar, which means that in your first year, you can also register for these seminars that are small groups. And there are 30 people who come together, and those seminars run for the whole year. And so, or for half a year, depending on which one you register for. Ours are half a year. And in that, you really get to work in depth closely with the professor, as well as on a topic in law. But the required courses at first year are Laws 1001 and Laws 1002 for our program. Then in second year, the class sizes do get smaller, and those usually become class sizes of 90. At your third year, it's between 50 and 60, 65, depending on which class, because we do have some research classes that are smaller, so 3908, for example. And then at fourth year, you have seminars, all seminars, which are capped at 27 or 30 students. So that's the class sizes at every year. As you can see, it's a bit of a pyramid. It gets smaller as you continue. So we're happy to answer that. The next question is from Irina, and it says, if you are in law, the concentration in government and policy, are you allowed to have electives as well as aside from the mandatory courses of the program? And the answer to that is actually definitely. There is a balance there, and this would be true of actually any BA program that you were going to look at Carleton. There are a certain number of courses that you are required to take in your major, and a certain amount of those courses will be in your concentration. And then there will be a certain number of courses that you have to take outside of your area called breadth requirements. And then beyond that, there are a certain number of just plain optional credits. And how many of those really depends on how you structure your program. So thank you for that question, Irina. So Memi asked the question, are fall classes going to be in person? Sean, did you want to take that one?
Yeah, so as I mentioned at the beginning, Carleton is planning on most of our classes being in person. There's still always, sort of the caveat about how things unfold, but that's the goal. Like other Canadian universities as well, they're still also sorting out, because the past 2 years have been so unprecedented, and they're trying to offer a range of delivery methods. There will also be some online options as well for students who want that. But it's my understanding that the main goal is to try to get back to normal as much as possible, and everyone's excited and keen to do so. But there will also be online options as well, because there are students who benefit from those options. I'm just checking the other questions in the Q&A. What are, sorry. Sorry, just a second. We got the class size, we got the fall. Cesare asked, what do students learn about in business law particularly? So as I mentioned briefly, I'll just bring the slides back just to help with that. Sorry. No. There we go. So I mentioned a range of potential business law oriented courses, such as contracts, intellectual property, international trade, employment law, for instance. Different students in the business law concentration can pick different courses, and the best thing to do would be to take a look on our website under the business law concentration description for the full range. But as I mentioned, it is our most popular concentration, and so there are courses that deal both with business law and domestic context, but also at the international level as well.
And I think the only thing I would add to that, Sean, is like most courses of study that you're going to find at the university, if you were to study business law, you would start off with, first of all, Laws 1000, and then some general concepts that guide how we think about business law in Canada. So things like private law, persons and property. How do we actually structure our relationship between persons and property? And think about that. And then you would, at your third and fourth year levels, have more specialized courses. For example, depending on what your interests are, we usually offer things like banking law. We offer internet, as Sean mentioned, international business transactions. We offer business law more generally, so sort of corporate structure type courses. So it really does vary, but it does tend to scaffold upwards from some general foundational knowledge to very specialized courses. So you will have an opportunity to learn about things that are in your particular area of interest as you've built that foundation going forward.
Thanks for that as well, Bettina. So another question on the Q&A was, what are some co-op placements in law? In terms of fourth year learning placements, I supervise a few of them. Other faculty members do as well. Right now, we've got students working in small law firms dealing with family law. For instance, we have 3 students in the research section of the RCMP dealing with community engagement and law reform as well. I know we have 1 student working in the Ministry of the Attorney General, which is the provincial level, in the prosecution area, I think. But there's been a range of placements, and they depend in part on the relationships that we build with organizations through the department, but also some students, depending on their own interests and career goals, have contacted people, and then we help support them to get them placed in those organizations. And they've been a very rewarding experience, students have said. Another question is, what is the next step after completing the 4 years of our program in order to become a lawyer? This is actually a common question for many of our students, and I'll start it, but Bettina, jump in as well if you have any other thoughts. Law schools in Canada in general require an undergraduate degree, and then also writing of the LSAT, which is a standard admissions test. And so if you got into law school afterwards and completed the 3 years of a law school, you would then complete a year of articling, and you would write the bar admissions exams for the Law Society of Ontario or whatever province you were in, and you would then, after that process, become a lawyer. Bettina, is there anything else, though, thinking about what are some of our students' goals or our program?
No, I think the only thing I would add, and this is something that you flagged with our student groups, is that we do have obviously a solid amount of students who are interested in pursuing law degrees as a career option, as well as other career options. And so our Student Law Society is a great way of connecting with other students who are interested in law, but that also they offer some of this information as well to their own members. So while we as a department obviously support all career paths going forward, they do offer some information and support about law school admissions as well.
Related to that, I'll just flag another question that was on this theme. Does Carleton offer the Juris Doctor degree, JD, for students interested in attending law school? So just to clarify, that the JD is usually what Canadian law schools themselves now offer, in part out of being influenced by American law schools. And so what we're offering is a BA, a Bachelor of Arts in Law and Legal Studies, that many students then use as a jumping off point to pursue graduate studies such as law school. So it's just to be distinguished, just to be careful not to get the two confused on that question. Taking a look. I see that some of them have been answered, but I'm not sure if that was done so through the Q&A feature. Was the can I minor in law with a major in biology? Was that answered?
Got it.
Nice. What a team. Okay. Oh. Here's another one. Thank you, Rowan. What clubs are related to law? I remember last year after one of these events, there was a separate event for all of the range of clubs. So I don't want to get that wrong. The most salient I'd be aware of is the Student Law and Society Club that I mentioned earlier. But if there are others that Millie or Bettina are aware of, please jump in.
Well, I mean, really, there are over 200 clubs at the university. Millie will know this very well. And so it depends what your interests are. Really, those can range from cultural or activity related to specifically related to some that are closely related to law. For example, the Model UN is one of those that might be of interest to our students. That actually is one that is not directly related to our department, but most departments actually have their own student society that is related to them. And that's actually, Millie will attest to this, a great way to get involved in student government is through the club in your department. And then you can get involved more fully at the university level as well. And that's also a really wonderful experience. So just that to keep in mind. I also see there was another question, how many electives are available in first year? So as I mentioned, Sean, do you want me to take this one or?
Yes, please. Thank you, Bettina.
As I mentioned, in your first year, you take to you take 5 full credits, which are made up of 10 half courses or half credits usually, although there are some 1.0 credit courses that would be worth 2. So that's something to keep in mind when you're looking, is to check the credit value of the courses you're looking to register for. Of those, we only have 1 required credit in law. That's Laws 1001, Laws 1002 at the first year. All of your other courses, that means that 4.0 credits in your first year are electives. And the reason for that is that we actually encourage a lot of diversity in our first year BA students, that you get a range of exposures. And actually, we also encourage students at all levels to think about double majoring. We offer very clearly, and I would refer you to the website to take a look at this, the ability to double major with any other BA program and some other programs in particular. So it's just something to keep in mind.
Thank you, Bettina. We have another question. What kind of jobs are available after completing the pre-law degree? So again, just remember that ours would be a Bachelor of Arts in Law and Legal Studies. Yes, many of our students do then also seek to pursue law school afterwards, but there are a range of potential postgraduate studies options available, and also career options available. I've pulled the slide back up that I talked a little bit about earlier in the presentation. And as I flagged, then many of our graduates have built exciting careers with federal government departments, whether that's foreign affairs, for instance, defense, agriculture, environment, for instance, oceans, but also at the provincial level as well, and also the municipal level of government as well. There are jobs that people have pursued with federal and provincial courts, educational institutions, media, information and tech companies as well, NGOs, financial sectors, health, social services, public relations as well, so among others. And one of the highlights that we're proud of is the alumni student networking events that we plan throughout the year to connect students who are thinking about what they want to do afterwards, who maybe would love some inspiration or ideas, connect them with former law and legal studies students who have exciting jobs and are eager to share their stories and give advice as well. So that's the jobs question. And we had another one from Irina. Thank you for your questions. This is great. Can I major in law and have a minor in another law strand? I'm sorry, I'm not quite sure.
So no, actually, there are rules about how many credits you can actually take within your own major. And one of the things that is often not allowed is for you to minor in the same subject in which you are majoring. So there are rules around that. But what I would say with that is that there are a certain number of free electives that you can take within your own subject matter. But again, part of what you want to think about is also gaining a bit of breadth of knowledge, and that's actually part of the requirements of every degree. So it's actually, there are quite clear rules about minoring in the same subject that you're majoring in.
Thank you, Bettina. So Millie, is that our time, or what's the larger schedule?
Yeah, I was going to say, I think this has been a very productive info session today.
Good.
Thank you so much, Sean and Bettina, for all your knowledge, everything you've shared with us today. This is fantastic. And thank you so much to everyone who's come to participate and ask questions. We've had some really fantastic involvement and engagement today from you, and we really appreciate that. Before we totally wrap up, I do want to encourage all of our participants and audience members to check out some of the other booths that are available here. There's lots of academic booths that are going to be still there'll still be people in them until 4:30 this afternoon. And I would also love to encourage you to check out some of our academic services and student services that we offer here at Carleton. You can get a bit of a sense for what it's like to be a Raven. And with that, I think we're about ready to wrap things up, but thank you so much again for everyone who tuned in. And thank you both to Bettina and Sean for hosting this.
Thanks everyone, all the students who send in questions. I really appreciate it. It makes it more fun for us. Thanks, Millie, for hosting us as well. Go team.
Thanks.
See you in September, everyone.
Go Ravens.
Go Ravens. I love it.